Okay, Hunter, I'm ready. Everyone listen, please. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were ready. Okay, talk a little bit. Sorry, Hunter.
Alright. So, when I became the Eagle Scout, we had to set up our Eagle Court of Honor, which basically is just a day to commemorate my accomplishments with family and friends. So, we were at the church the night before getting everything set up, and my little brother, being 5, was just a bundle of energy, running around endlessly, and ran into a cabinet. When he did, the cabinet, it wasn't secured to anything. It actually fell down on top of him and broke his nose. But because we had a basic first aid kit, and I had gone through first aid merit badge and everything, we knew what to do in that situation. So we cleaned him up, we made sure that he wasn't tilting his head back to let the blood drain down his throat, and took him to the hospital, and everything was fine. So today I'm just going to teach you all how to put together your own basic first aid kit for very basic first aid needs, just in case you ever find yourself in that situation. The first thing you want to do is actually grab yourself something to put it in. So I chose this here because it's got little buttons and straps to hook to backpacks and whatnot if I want to go hiking. This is really basic, and what you'll want will change depending on what you do. So if you go scuba diving, you're going to want something that's more waterproof, or mountain biking, so on and so forth. So just depending on what you want to do, get something that's appropriate for it. I've also got a little, just a Tupperware container that I put inside it to keep everything nice and dry in case it rains, because a lot of this is sensitive to water. So the first thing I have, probably one of the most important things, is just a pair of surgical gloves. Now, this is really important because when dealing with first aid situations, you want to make sure that you're safe and that you're not going to catch anything from them that they have or that they don't even know that they have. You want to make sure that you don't put yourself into danger or into any sort of trouble, because it'll only make it more difficult for the person who has to help both of you. Second, I've got a variety of different antiseptic cleaners. I've got some Neosporin here just as a spray. I've got some antiseptic cleaning wipes, and I've got some antibiotic ointment. This is really important because you need to make sure that the wound is clean. So if you've got a cut or a scrape on your hand or anywhere really, make sure that you clean the wound, because the only thing more difficult to clean or to treat than a regular wound is an infected wound, because at that point you have to get antibiotics and it's just no fun. I've got alcohol swab sticks as well. Next, I've got some basic antihistamine. It's called Sting Relief. So for bug bites or bee stings, once that gets itchy, you can rub it on it and it'll relieve the itching. Next, I've got some painkillers. They're just basic non-aspirin painkillers for maybe some more serious injuries. I've also got your basic Band-Aid, just for regular cuts and scrapes. Like I said, you're going to want to clean those off, use some Neosporin or another antiseptic cleaner, and make sure it's nice and clean. Next, I have a sterile gauze pad. Now this is for still shallow cuts and scrapes, but if it's too big to fit under a regular Band-Aid. This is used along with medical tape, so you'll just place the gauze pad over top of the wounds after you clean it and tape it down to their arm. Next, I've got some medical gauze, and what you're going to want to do is, if the cut is really deep, what you're going to need to do is pack the medical gauze into the wound. And it's going to be really painful, but you're going to need to pack it in because it'll put pressure on the inside of the wound, stopping the bleeding. So once you've packed it nice and tight inside the wound, you're just going to want to wrap it around as many times as you can, just to keep pressure not only on the inside but also on the outside of the wound. That way it'll stem the bleeding and it'll promote clotting. Next, I've got just a basic medical wrap. I would use this sort of thing for a tourniquet, which is if you ever have a really serious wound anywhere on a lower part of one of your limbs, you're going to want to restrict the blood flow there so that they don't bleed out. So what you'll do is, say I've got a really bad cut on my lower arm, I would wrap this really tightly up here around my upper arm to restrict the blood flow, sort of slow it down. But the only problem with the tourniquet is the longer it's on there, the more dangerous it becomes to like your extremities. So the cells at the tips of your fingers will start dying. And if it's on there for longer than 8 hours, you could potentially lose fingers. So a tourniquet's really like a last case scenario. So I wouldn't recommend that right off the bat. And then also the last thing I have in my kit is just a sterile eye pad. Now, if you ever get something like lodged in your eye or something's irritating your eye, what you're going to want to do is put this over the eye that's unaffected so that it'll discourage eye movement. Because if they have something lodged in their eye, they're not going to be able to see very well out of it. So if you cover their other eye, then they won't be looking around much at all. Not only that, but you can get all of this stuff at your basic Walgreens. You know, all of this stuff is very basic, and you'll find this in a lot of like $10 first aid kits.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that you have all the tools that you need for the situation that you may encounter. So I hope that this taught you all a little bit about the very basics of first aid. And I want to remind you all that depending on what you do, be it scuba diving and mountain biking, you always want to be prepared for any situation that may arise.
Thank you.